All right. Good morning, everybody. At least on the East Coast or the United States, and my friend Helen is based in the UK. So good afternoon for all of you that are watching from there. Helen, welcome to Social Your Sales Live.
Hi, delighted to be here. It's a lovely afternoon here in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad. It's drizzly and hopefully we have not seen the sun for about a week in Atlanta. So hopefully we're going to see the sun today. But Helen, we've got a short window of time so we don't, take up too much of people's times, but you have recently embraced social selling and you have been willing to come on and share your experiences, the good, the not so good, the fear, and thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's always difficult to start something new. So I'm happy to share how I'm getting on with it all.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me ask this question to start. Why did you embrace social selling to begin with as a new tactic or strategy in your sales?
Okay, well, I'd been known Tim Hughes, who's one of the authors of the social selling book, for a number of years, and had a few conversations back and forward with him about social selling, about how much more effective it was, and about how it could really transform the way that organisations did sales. And in the role I was in previously, part of that role was to make new connections, get to know people and to sell. And so I was new to that process. I worked really hard to be really efficient at that. And that
Hmm.
involved doing things like sending out the dreaded cold emails, approaching people on LinkedIn and asking them to connect, and then seeing if I could strike up conversations with people. And, it was really difficult. It's very, very easy to be very, very organized, very, very sort of mechanistic about how you do that. Lots of tools that are out there, CRM systems that sort of help you remember to follow things up and do things. But, really, really quite frustrating and demotivating about the lack of progress that I could make. So when I transitioned from that to a new role, and where there was the opportunity to try something different, I thought, right, you know what, I'm going to get back in touch with Tim and I'm going to find out a bit more about social selling. So that's what I did. And I'm somebody who's a sort of social media native. I've been on it for years. I love Twitter. I'm out and about tweeting things and posting on LinkedIn. But I wanted to find out, well, how can I use being on LinkedIn primarily, but being on social to much more effect to actually bring people towards me to come and talk to me about the things that I do, and see whether that I can, work with them on things in the future. So that's where I am, sort of at the beginning of my journey to transition from that awful
Yeah.
email world to something a lot better. It's so far so good.
Well, good. Well, tell us about that. I mean, thank you for sharing the why of you transitioned. And
Mm-hmm.
how long have you been actively learning about and acting in social for sales? How long have you been doing that?
It's probably about a couple of months now, 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
What the different, so where I started was I'd got quite a funky strap line on my LinkedIn profile. I'm crazy in love with procurement, so don't come anywhere near me if you don't talk about procurement. But the first thing I did was to look again at my profile and change it from a sort of very functional statement of what I'd done into something a bit more interesting and a bit more engaging. So I had a look at my profile. I rewrote the narrative around the things that I'd done. Even going back to when I was worked in a supermarket many, many years ago, to put, just to try to give people a feel for who I am, because I think,
Hmm.
one of the things, you can do a lot more on social than you can in an email, is to be you, to be human, to be you, to give people a flavour of who you are, what your sense of humour is, and so on. And the profile's a really great place to do that. So that was one of the first things I did. The second thing I did, I'd sort of posted before, but is I started to think about, posting more, what I was posting. And for me, a big challenge for me was to transition from, seeing LinkedIn primarily as a sort of place where you corporately posted, you shared something that the business had produced. For me, you might say something creative about that, but it was very sort of on brand and very functional, into being a bit more human. Today I've posted a picture of the sunrise here and just said how wonderful it is and how lucky I am to live here. Now, that is something that 2 or 3 months ago I wouldn't have done, because I would have thought that was, a bit Facebooky, not something that anybody on LinkedIn would be interested in, because we're all there to work and we're all there to talk corporate, things. So that's something I've been sort of working on, in terms of just trying to be more human, really. Not that I'm not human, I'm quite quirky, and I don't mind being like that on social, but quirky in a Helen way rather than in a corporate way.
Well, and what have you found? What's your experience been as you've been testing this? And number one, let me ask this question: how hard has it been to transition? And then number two would be, what's the experience been like?
Well, I think it's not been that easy, because I'm somebody that's I don't mind saying where I live, but I'm quite private about things like, the members of my family. I'm not somebody who on any platform puts pictures of them up, because they're not on social media, and that's their decision, and that's fine. So, trying to think about how to do that without, or feeling that you don't have anything, you're not somebody that's overcome a challenge, or you're not somebody who's running a marathon or whatever, is accepting that what you're, something in your life that you think is quite ordinary is actually quite interesting for other people. And it's just about, as back to what I said about being human and about being social, isn't about always talking about quests or overcoming things or really interesting things. It could just be about everyday life, and that's a valid enough thing to put on, and people are interested in, people who like that, people who comment on that. So that was one challenge.
Can you give us an example of a post that you created that falls in line with what you just described? Because I love what you're saying, is that just your life is interesting to people, because your life is similar to lots of people. And you did say, you haven't overcome something, you're not running a marathon. I think a lot of times we feel like we read what other people are doing, and it's like, oh, I'm training for a marathon, or oh, I've overcome this or whatever. And we go, oh, what do I have? Nothing. What do I do? So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I'd love to hear, give us an example of something that was, ordinary. You use the word quirky, Helen. I love that word, because I think we're all quirky. We're all just, we all have different quirks, and that's what makes us human. But what's an example of something that you would say was just ordinary, normal, and you posted it, and tell us how, what kind of responses you got?
Well, I think, obviously I've talked about the sunrise this morning, but, another thing I did recently was just somebody had posted and talked about what they did in the morning. What's your morning routine? And, I just do a bit of yoga. So, rather than saying, I meditate for half an hour, and then I go and run 5K, and I do whatever. I
Thanks,
just
Thomas.
I just posted. Sorry, I just posted what I do, which is I do a bit of yoga in the morning. You know, that's what I do, and you know, so it didn't need to be performative. I didn't need to post a picture of me doing it, you know, in a very difficult position. And again, that's just about, you know, I think sometimes when people post things like what, you know, like that, you feel you can't post because what you do isn't interesting, you know. But I think that, so that's just okay. Yeah, everybody does yoga in the morning, or they don't, you know. But the post itself was this: the woman liked to go outside and be with nature, and it was a lovely. And I thought, well, I'd love to go outside and be with nature, but you know, it's usually chucking it down with rain and blowing a hoolie, as we say in Scotland here. So, you know, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think, you know, things like that would be my idea of just being normal. So I think when people you know, when interaction, when people sort of come to it, you know, if I see things coming up in my feed, for instance, now about people getting jobs, for instance, and somebody in my network would have done a clap or whatever. Now, I don't know those people. There was somebody the other day whose big little boy, 17-year-old, 16-year-old, was his first day at building training college. So I just put, oh, that's brilliant to see. Good luck. And that's somebody I don't know. I'm not connected with him, but that's just about being human and about seeing somebody's son doing something for the first time and wanting to be part of that experience. So I think, you know, even that's, you know, we don't need to overthink it. We don't need to sort of have some sort of sales strategy post that's going into that comment, you know. Hoping to, I toyed with, I tell you what I did on that one. I toyed with putting something like, hopefully he's learning sustainable construction, because, you know, when I think about procurement and building things and about procuring construction projects, you know, you put sustainability in it. But that's not me, and that wouldn't have been an appropriate thing to post. So there's a juxtaposition between being human, bravo, good luck, to being salesy, you know. Oh well, hopefully it's part of a program.
Bringing your agenda to it and your opinion
into it, So that's something I've learned. It's not about it's perhaps even about patience. It's about building connection with people, and they'll come and connect. You know, they'll come and connect or talk to you eventually. It's about being patient with people and not. You know, obviously everybody's earning a living, everybody's doing things to pay the bills. So obviously there's a backstory to you that's about what you do and how you get paid, but you don't need to have it up there when you're on social. You know, those conversations will come when people connect with you in a message, or that you might reach out to them, but that's later on in the relationship. It doesn't need to be there at the beginning.
Yeah, very good. So what advice would you have for people that are looking at social selling from a distance? And I'd love to say you had used yesterday when we chatted before we got on the live, you talked about the old activities that you were doing, and you used the word soul sucking. How has one, explain what you meant by that, and then two, how has social selling been different for you from what you did before?
Well, I mean, it was sucked the life out of me, sucked the soul out of me, because, you know, you would send 300 emails out to people. You would even spend a bit of time to make that email, you know, as engaging and as interesting and as sticky and as high-end marketing as you possibly could. You'd send it all out and then nothing would come back. And, you know, thinking that you're just talking to nobody, and all that hard work, even if it's really efficient, even if you use a tool to do it automatically, you know, sucks the life out of you. And yet this week, in particular, it's been a good week for me in terms of social and the interaction. I just feel alive. People are talking to me. I'm talking back to them. I'm seeing what people are doing. People like yourself and posts that you're putting up, and you're like, oh, there's people out there, and there's lots of energy, and I'm interacting with people. People are replying. People are liking, and that's just feels so different. And the amount of people that are connecting with me, they're connecting with me is just amazing. And it's like, well, for those 300 things where nobody would come back to people seeing me and connecting with me, they know about procurement. It's in my strap line. It's brilliant. And I just feel really energized. So it's quite a different way of feeling.
That's great. So I have 2 more questions, and then we might be out of time. So number 1, we're going to get to Thomas's question that I put up on there. Thomas, thank you for that. Thanks for joining us. But first, the question that so many people get, so many people ask, and I get this all the time, is, okay, social selling, engaging, what about sales? Like, we can't focus on social in social selling. We use social in order to generate revenue and grow our pipeline and have better conversations. I know you said you're 2-3 months into it, but how has that been for you in having targeted conversations with prospective customers? I appreciate what you just said. It's more energizing. People are connecting with you. It feels better than the soul sucking, cold call, leave a voicemail. How's it been working? What's the outcomes been?
Well, one of my objectives over the past few months has been to, one of the things I like to do is to present and to talk about thought leadership in some of the areas that I'm interested in, because from that then comes either paid writing or speaking opportunities or consultancy. And one of the things that has resulted from the interaction has been an invitation to appear in a podcast, which is great in terms of brand awareness. That's not a sale, but it's part of my strategy of becoming more, having a message I want to get across, having forums to do that. So that's been my initial objective there. The other thing is I'm targeting a particular geographic area for a client I'm about to do some work with, in terms of trying to make some connections with the right sorts of people over in that area. And again, that I think that the presence and the things I'm posting about, when people are seeing in the feed, I'm getting some good responses to that in terms of connection requests being accepted. So early days for me in terms of actual sales, but that's my objectives really being achieved in the short term for that.
Cool. Well, Thomas had a question about what kind of content do you like to focus on, engage with? And if you would answer that, and then we're going to wrap up and let people get back to their day.
Well, I think that the content, some of the content comes from the feed itself, so from your network itself. So, you're scrolling through, and things that you're interested in are the things I like to. So, somebody with their morning routine, that's me. Somebody posting about running a marathon, that's not me. So I try and focus on things that I'm interested in, rather than just being interested in everything that everybody in the feed is doing for being interested sake, because I think that's not...
Yeah, can I interrupt for 1 second? Because I think that is so good. And just for us to pause and say, focus on things that you're interested in, not on what everyone else is interested in. And it's, like Seth Godin wrote long time ago about our tribe, right? And building our tribe. And I just want to pause and get, if whatever you're into, you're, hobby wise, volunteer work, you coach your kids in a sport, you're, whatever it is, there are people out there that will resonate with that. And there's people in your industry that will resonate with that. Like, go fully be you, and know that your tribe will find you. And just a real quick story, and then I'm going to let you finish this up. I spoke at an event one time, and afterwards, this gentleman came up and was speaking with me. We were chatting, and he goes, "Oh, I want to, can I give you my card and follow up?" I said, "Absolutely." And he went to hand me a card, and he goes, "Oh, no, not that card. Let me get you the other one." And I said, "Well, what was that?" Because I saw like dogs on it. And he goes, "Oh, my passion is that I have a dog rescue, and my family and I, we run this. It's a nonprofit, da da da." And I go, "Why isn't that on your business card too?" And I believe, this was professional services. He was either a real estate agent or a insurance agent. I can't remember, but I said, one thing, I think he was a realtor. And I said, one thing I know about lots of people that buy houses is they love dogs. Like, why wouldn't you bring your passion to your message? Because there's a lot of people out there that love dogs and buy and sell houses. Why would you keep those apart? So just a story to emphasize what you said. Focus on who you are and what you love and what you enjoy, and don't go jumping into conversations that aren't about you, because you're not going to like it and it's going to feel yucky anyway.
Yeah, and I think the difference between social media and, say, going to a networking event where there's 20 people there, when you're at something where there's 20 people, in a sense, you've got to try and find connection with the 20 people that are there. So, you might talk about marathon running, let's pick that one. I might not be that interested in it, but because there's only 20 people there, I might get you to tell me about that, and I, might try and think of some interesting ways to keep you going. Just be out of because it's a networking event and because there's only a small group of people. The thing about social media is the pool is so much bigger that you can narrow it down. You can be more, be more in your tribe, to use your Seth Godin. So I mean, an example of that would be that there's a particular football team that I like. I follow their corporate page on LinkedIn. They posted something about a new development that they're doing, and I commented on it. Now that'll come up in my feed. In the olden days, I might have been a bit worried that if you supported a different football team, you might be put off me, or we shouldn't bring, football and religion, we shouldn't bring it into, I don't know, would it be baseball or whatever, or American football or whatever.
Oh, no, I'm a fan of the beautiful game. I'm all in.
Well, there you go. So and the team I like play very beautiful football, but in the old days, pardon, Liverpool. So have done since the 1970s.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to end this broadcast now because I'm a Manchester United supporter.
Oh, well, we all have our cross to bear.
Yes, right. So
in the old days, in the old days,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The old days, I wouldn't have commented on that. Now I will, because there's that many more people, and also that LinkedIn doesn't polarize, so you're not going to get into some sort of row with other football fans, a bit like some of the other platforms. So
yeah, I think in something like LinkedIn, people kind of rally around the sport instead of who you support, who I support, and all that. So, well, Helen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience and your insights. I really appreciate you taking that risk and sharing as a newbie and not feeling like you have all the answers. Of course, none of us have all the answers, but is there any last word for you to share with anyone that's sitting on the fringe, looking at this, going, do I want to jump into this social selling? Is it real? What would you say to him?
Well, I think what's it? Einstein doing the same thing hundreds of times and expecting a different result is a sign of madness. Now, I know that sort of cold calling and that type of sales is, I'm not sure how many thousands of emails you need to send, but it's not a great use of your time. So be brave and be human and get out there and see how it does, and perhaps give yourself a time period, a month, monitor it, start at the beginning, see how many connections you have at the beginning, monitor the data, because I think the data will, I'm certainly doing it. I'm writing in my diary how many followers I've got, and keeping an eye on that, and you will see that actually the results will come. And so then if it's data driven, it's not a leap of faith, it's not a sort of, it's actually, it is, it is working. But be brave and be human, and there's no wrong post, say who you are. And if you like Cristiano Ronaldo, then you just got to say it. You just got to get in there and say it.
I mean, who doesn't respect his skill set? So, Tim, your mentor, just popped in and said, "Great conversation." Thank you, Tim, for joining us. And then Helen, I'm going to end with this. Look right behind me. I've got
that's lovely.
My Peter Max 1994 World Cup painting, because one of my great memories is I got to go to the World Cup finals in 1994.
Wow.
They were in California, and it was a thrill. So Helen, thank you so much for joining and sharing your experience. And everybody, thank you for joining us at Social Your Sales Live. If you want more of these conversations, you can go find us on Social Your Sales Podcast on Spotify or any of your publishing players. And I'd be very grateful if you joined us. And if you have any thoughts, comments, you want to be a guest, connect with me. Let's be social, and we'll get you on the show. Helen, thank you again. Have a wonderful Thursday.
And you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.